being a comedian is the best job in the world.
First time you hear laughter, you're hooked.
It's one of the most difficult jobs in the world is to be a comedian. Trying to be a comedian, being a comedian and staying as a comedian.
You can't be a star overnight in this game because you've got to learn your craft. You've got to learn timing. You've got to learn to be able to speak over a load of noise.
It's a hard life. No, definitely not. You tell that to the workers. You tell the fellas who are working on the buses, the fellas who are digging holes all day. That's the hard life. The ordinary people who are working on building sites and down mines and driving lorries, because I've done all that.
Next to being a surgeon, I think being a comedian is one of the best occupations, to see people laugh, you know.
The comics, well, there's very few people can do comedy. You can count the good comics on two hands.
The turning point in my career was leaving Belfast, coming over and meeting Johnnie Hamp, and him asked me to do the comedians, and my words to Johnnie Hamp were putting all of those comedians together on one show, and the words in the book, the comedians, is, "It will die on its ass." I was wrong. He was right.
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the comedians.
When I had the idea at the back of my mind for to do the comedian series or the show, I wasn't really sure what I was looking for.
Ladies and gentlemen, please give a big welcome to the show's creator, legendary producer, Johnnie Hamp.
But I've always preferred being behind the scenes and giving a bit of a push to new talent and mainly old talent as well. I knew the talent was out there because I'd seen it so often, you know, and it was those lads like Bernard Manning, Frank Carson, Charlie Williams, the early ones. They really were the alternative comics of their day, you know. I mean, it was different.
This fella come to our house, he said, "Do you believe in free speech?" I said, "I do." He said, "Can I use your telephone?"
Of the first series of the comedians, Charlie Williams and Ken Goodwin were no doubt the stars. I mean, they were the two that came out of the very first series in a very big way.
What are you laughing at?
There's a bloke stood there, 3 eyes, no arms, 1 leg. I said, aye. You look harmless, hop in.
Charlie Williams was very, very, very famous. Charlie Williams opening night in Scarborough, 30,000 people came into the town to catch a glimpse of him. 30,000 people. And that was just all from the comedians through one joke. Quite amazing.
After about 3 weeks on air, I mean, Charlie Williams was earning 10 quid a night before he in the working men's clubs before the series started. And at the end of the series, the first 6, he was on about 5 grand a week, you know, at the big clubs.
So up, is there colour bar on, or what?
Yeah, Charlie could he broke down barriers. I mean, as far as I know, there was never any objection to Charlie because he was black in those working men's clubs. He may have got 1 or 2 odd remarks or thing, but he had such a terrific personality and lovable personality that it just didn't happen.
How am I looking there, Stan?
You're looking wonderful. In fact, you're looking 20 years younger.
Not bad for 84.
The legendary Mr. Frank Carson.
I've known Frank Carson longer than anyone else. I mean, right from, it's over 50 years I've known Frank now.
Your Uncle Joe drank a bottle of varnish yesterday and had a horrible death, but a lovely finish.
So someone said there's a great girl singer called Bridie Gallagher, the singing housewife, and she's appearing in the summer season at the Ballyshannon Opera House in Sligo. So I went across to see her, and of course the Ballyshannon Opera House was a tin hut with grass growing out of the gutters and everything, you know, a corrugated roof. And I went up to the guy at the ticket office and said to him, the fellow selling tickets was Frank Carson. So he said, I'm the comedian, he said, and he said, I hope you're going to see Miss Bridie Gallagher, he said, but I hope you're going to stop and see me. He said, although I might not go on if it's raining. So I said, why is that? He said, well, he said the rain makes so much noise on the corrugated roof that they can't hear the comics. They can hear the singing, but they can't hear the comic. So we became great friends. So when I started the Comedians, Frank was obviously first choice.
You've heard them all before, it was the way I tell it.
I was the very clean, Holy Joe comedian. I still am a relatively clean comedian as well. I don't effing blind on stage. I don't like it, actually. And I enjoy working. I enjoy being a funny man, and I enjoy being a funny man among the funny men.
I saw Bernard Manning and Frank Carson going at each other one night. Oh my, this is your life. And I realised something then that I never realised in all the years before. They don't listen to each other. They just keep going.
One of the worst things, I suppose, that could happen to anybody is be trapped in a lift that's got stuck for 4 hours with Frank Carson, you know. What's the gang? They say you can, what's the difference between the M1 and Frank Carson? You can turn off the M1, you know. But he's a great character having around, and I've put him into many other shows around, you know, because he is classic.
We're going out there tonight, and we know we've got the audience beaten before they even sit down. We'll make them laugh. Any joke is the same. A joke is just something where there is no joke that anyone can tell where somebody comes out good. It's always, there's a down guy in a joke, he's the fella, or the wife, or the mother-in-law.
Maggie Murphy was singing in the front row of the chapel when she overbalanced and fell. She was hurtling down into the middle of the chapel and the leg of her drawers caught in one of the rafters. And she went swinging up and down and the parish priest said, if any man turns round to look at their unfortunate woman, may the Lord strike him blind. And Riley turns to Casey and he says, I think I'll risk one eye.
Bernard was Mr. Manchester as far as comics go when I started the Comedians. I knew him well, I knew George Roper well. They were always appearing at the Bernard at his own club, of course, and all the other big clubs around. And he was one that, one of the comedians I really wanted to give a go. Of course, everybody said, no way.
Oh, there's a fellow passing a blacksmith and he said, it said help wanted. And he went in, he says, have you ever shoed a horse before? He said, no, I once told a donkey to fuck off.
For me, the magic about Bernard Manning is his timing. I mean, it's perfect. Forget the material.
There's no old bars in me. I swear a lot. I tell blue stories. I tell a million clean stories. I did about 300 of the comedian shows without telling a blue gag.
Irishman up in court for maintenance. The judge said, we've decided to allow your wife £7 a week. He says, thanks very much, and I'll try and send her a few shillings myself.
Personally, he liked me, which I was, yeah, he used to call me Shakespeare, Bernard. He did like me, so every time he saw me, he was, you know, hello, son. Mick Miller. Statues of him all round Stratford.
Bernard Manning I knew very, very well. He's been accused of many, many things. He did an awful lot of good in Manchester. He's one of the biggest charity raisers of all time.
Bernard's had a lot of criticism over the years, which he definitely brought on himself. And he'll own up to that, of course, you know. And I've always said to him, why do you want to do all that? And, you know, and he's said it's what the punters want, you know. And maybe he's right, maybe he's not.
Of course, lots of people say you're very racist in those days. Writers, broadcasters, MPs, everybody was racist in those days. We didn't know what being racist was. That was a new word. You know, they questioned it, the comedians. What do you mean I'm racist? What did I say? That's not racist, is it? We would have argued against it because we really didn't know what the word racist meant.
They wouldn't come and see me. They said, oh, Brother Manning, he's racist. Oh, they don't know me.
In actual fact, at the funeral of our late friend Bernard Manning, I said, how can they call this man a racist? The first thing he ordered for his funeral was 4 black horses.
His son, young Bernard, at his funeral, he said to me, Roy, you know, my dad often talked about you and what have you, and I said, your dad never needed to say all those things, Bernard. And he said, I said that to him as well. I said, he's funny enough without doing that. And older Bernard said, it's what they want, son. That's what they come to see me for. And he was right. That was the marketplace he'd gone into, a marketplace I wouldn't go into. But he'd created his own marketplace.
What's been the hardest part of the job?
Well, the travelling and bereavements while you've been in the job. My mother died and my wife died on holiday. She was on a cruise and she died, and they told me 10 minutes before I went on stage at the Embassy Club. That fucking destroyed me. But I still went on and did it, but how I did it, I'll never know. And my dad died on the bowling green. In the afternoon, I was at the Poker Club in Stockport, and Vince Miller, the compere, I said, I can't come tonight, Vince. I said, you could ring me out. I said, I could. He said, Bernard, we sold every ticket in the place, he said. He says, what are we going to do? So he talked me into it. I went and did it, and I did it, and when I come off, he'll tell you I collapsed. When I come off, I went down well, and how I kept going for that hour, I don't know. I was on with the Dallas boys. And these are the terrible things that happen to you. You've got to, show business is a thing that people have sold tickets. They don't want to know your problems. They've got their own problems.
The fellow went to the doctor. He says, well, I've examined you. He said, I can't find nothing wrong with you. He says, you must have Alice. He said, what's that? He said, I don't know, but Christopher Robin went down with it.
So I must say about comedians, they're a great team together. They get on well with each other, which surprises me. You know, ballerinas don't apparently get on with each other. You know, well, opera singers are a bit as jealousy, but there's a great sort of comradeship amongst comics. Of course, there was a rivalry. Bernard Manning was always having a go at poor old George Roper, who was similar in size and style.
The policeman said to the first fellow, what's your name? He said, Murphy. It is. Yes, it is. He said, where do you live? He said, no fixed abode. He said to the second fellow, where do you live? He said, in a flat above him.
Well, Frank Carson, who I've known longer than any of the comedians, because we've known each other way back since I first saw him at the Ballyshannon Opera House years ago. He said, there's a good comic. He said, he's a school teacher, Jim Bowen.
I was found by Frank Carson when I was doing a club in Blackpool called the Dolphin Bar. 1970, Frank Carson came in and saw me. I did well one night out of 7. I was there 7 nights. I did well one night. The other 6, I died on my arse. And the one night I did well, Frank Carson was in.
Some gags were 15 seconds. Some would go 30 seconds. 45-second joke was a long one. Well, Jim Bowen came in for the first time, and he did the old Cecil B. DeMille, ready when you are Mr. DeMille joke. And it lasted 13.5 minutes. So, but it was hysterical. A very, very funny routine, but I could use it.
They knew, you knew they didn't like you when they turned round. They watch you for 5 minutes and they go, oh. No, what do you think of it? And I've seen them do it as one. They've done it to me as one. The whole room. 200. I've gone, fellow went to the doctor, he said, have you got anything to make me sweat? The doctor said, yes, I'll sign you off. They've gone, oh, I fucking heard that, that seems crap. Fucking too. Just get on with it. Just used to get on with the pies and drinking.
Jim Bowen like several others, after the comedians had finished, and I think we did our last show in about 1985, he went on, a lot of others went on to do other things, and Jim, of course, went on to do the Bullseye.
Jim Bowen, news at 10, good night.
Do you remember the parrot gag? Who is it? It's a plumber come to mend your pipes. One of the best routines ever on the comedians, I think. He's here in person tonight, Duggie Brown.
It was a great, groundbreaking show. I mean, we were getting 17, 18, 19 million viewers. Granted, there were only 4 channels.
And at 9:30, there's a knock on the door. And the parrot said, "Who is it?" See? And he said, it's a plumber. I've come to mend your pipes. Would let me in, please?
It's amazing, that parrot gag, you know. I get people, I've watched American comics do it, and I can tell they've seen my rendition of it because they've picked little bits of it, you know.
Who is it? It's a plumber. I've come to mend your pipes.
I just kept I laugh more at my own gags than anybody else, and I always looked as though I was having a good time, which I was. If I did 1 hour on stage, I would always spend 45 minutes with the audience afterwards.
Yeah, a guy walked in the newsagents in Barnsley and said, "Do you sell bereavement cards?" The man said, "Yes." He said, "Would you exchange it to get well soon?"
Ladies and gentlemen, it's the comedians.
Stan came in on the series when it came back again, and Stan did incredibly well on it.
Scottish League. Cow and beef 1. Corned beef 2.
All of a sudden you're in the viewers' bedrooms, you're in the viewers' dining rooms, you're in the viewers' living rooms, and there's 20 million watching you. And that changed comedy. It's changed it forever.
Dumbarton 1. Dick Barton 2.
It's a bit like Ken Dodd. He's hard to stop. I mean, you know, you say, I want 20 minutes here, Stan. I mean, then you're standing in the wings at 25 minutes saying, come up, and you go on and on and on. And you have to keep laughing yourself because he's such a funny man. His timing is perfect.
I think when you get success, somewhere along the line, somebody's got to suffer. And I think that my family really suffered from me not being at home. And I was on the road, and I was working every single night. You know, I hardly had a night off. And it was always away, Newcastle, Scotland. But because of the hardship that I'd had before that, when I was on the dole, no money, lived in a council house all my life, and to get a job that was paying decent money, I had to look after it. And that, by looking after that, I then could look after my family.
Yeah, Stan's one of my great favourites. I mean, although I say on the comedians, he like all the others, would do jokes, he does routines as well. And the routines that Stan does about his life when he was a kid, I mean, the best ever.
Do you remember us going to school? Looking balaclava I had. All I had at the front where my dinner had got on it. It's a wonder we're not deformed. The way our mothers used to send us to school to keep us warm, she used to put a pin to your underpants and your balaclava. Then she'd wrap a scarf round your neck, pull it around, another friggin' big pin at the back. And that was in August.
Summer season we did in Blackpool, and all the other shows that we've done, I have to close with Stan because nobody else can top him.
It is an half-time score. He's 5-5. 4 far, so far, 4.
The modern comedian now is pushing the boundaries really far now. They're going right to the edge. Some of them are really right over the edge. I got kicked off the television for telling a joke about an aeroplane, which is called a Fokker Wolf. Now, 5 years later, a film comes out from America called Meet the Fockers, But nobody said a word about that.
Hold them 4. Drop them 6.
That's some new stuff. I'm not sure whether I could try that tonight. Depends what the audience are like. And Stan, well, that'll be his new stuff next week. Well, for some reason or other, I was hooked on comedy from an early age because I saw Laurel and Hardy at the Opera House in Belfast. I don't know who took me. I just remember seeing them.
She used to put the talcum powder on his face. God knows where she stuck his dummy.
It's a learning place. It's a base for learning. Getting on stage as often as possible for as little money as possible. Getting comparison with other comedians. Mixing with other comedians. Suffering with other comedians. Enjoying with other comedians. I loved it. I'm from a quiet fishing village in Northern Ireland called Belfast. Good old Belfast. We built the Titanic, you know. Hey, it was all right when it left us. I was talking about, you know, back in Belfast, you know, growing up, about how my mother had gone from a cold water house into a brand new house with hot water. That was a big deal among coal miners because they were going through the same change themselves, you know. The first joke I ever told, I told Jonathan Ross once, and he couldn't believe it. And he went, I get the truth of that. That is real truth. And my mother's doing well. She had a new bath put in. The fella from the council said, there you are, Mr. Walker, new bath. All you need's a plug. And she said, is it electric? She'd never seen a bath. It's hard to believe that nowadays.
People used to come from miles around and look into the pram and say, what is it?
He came home one night. She said, oh, Eddie, I'm so glad you're home. I kept hearing footprints.
Mick Miller is one of my favourite comics, I must say. I just love his style.
I would say that the comedians got me nationwide. Well, worldwide, really, because, you know, I've worked Australia, the other comedians out in Australia. Yeah, I would say the comedians was the best, you know, free advertisement you ever have in your life, really.
My lad walking, he said, Dad, there's a fella at the door with a bald head. I said, well, tell him I've got one.
They brought it back in 1980 with Stan Boardman, Roy Walker and myself, with the original lads, and it was mega. I mean, I think it packed the Palladium for 12 weeks. So, and it was like Saturday night. It was just a great show to be on. And with this hairstyle, I stuck out like a sore thumb, really.
It was like this for 3 weeks. Come on, come on. Come on. Do Max Wall in a minute. So, this. Thank you.
Bit more respect. You got, you know, you didn't get the concert chairmans poking you so much. You'll be on at 8:30, and then again after the bingo. You got a bit of respect. And a bit more respect from the audience, you know. They'd give you more of a chance because they've seen you on television, you know.
He just does observations of life, you know, and for me, I love that, you know.
My dad was a steward of a Catholic club in Liverpool, and he was a Protestant. How he got that job, I'd never know.
He does that fabulous routine, the noddy routine, which is, which I love it so much. I've put it out on about 8 shows over 20 years, you know.
Morning, kids. Noddy show. You all listen to your radios? What did Noddy do today? He wakes up, doesn't he? Goes in the bathroom for a wash. Can you hear little Noddy? Fill in the sink with water. Oh, little Noddy's got a big sink, hasn't he? He said, oh, shit, I'll have a bath.
I just love it, you know. I love every minute of it. You know, all the different challenges. I do the cruise ships, I do the alternative clubs, I do the theatres, sportsmen's dinners. I still enjoy every minute of it.
And... Is my zip undone?
I don't think I could ever imagine how successful comedians have become. There's no singing now. Is it to do with the environment? Is it to do with the world economy? Everybody's depressed. People are losing money right, left and centre. They need a laugh. It was the same in the Depression in the 30s. The theatres were full of comedians making them laugh, 6 shows a day. I think it's the same nowadays.
You've got to do one good spot on television now, and they are a national treasure.
I've got a great respect for some of the newer guys. I mean, particularly Paul Merton. I think he's, but I think Ian Hislop is funny, you know. So there's a different sort of humour, I think, going around now.
The form that it's in now, it's just blowing everybody out the water. I don't think anybody would have imagined that a comedian would be up doing a gig with 10,000 people in.
I see a lot of similarity in comedians of yesteryear. You know, you look at Lee Mack, you know what I mean? It's Eric Morecambe, but it's not Eric Morecambe. It's another generation, but Lee Mack is an incredible comedian.
Lee Evans, a bit normal wisdom. You know, he's a bit like that. Obviously, Jimmy Carr, Mud Monkhouse. Alan Carr, Kenneth Williams.
They're doing it in theatres all over the world now. They're packing theatres. You take a look at like a Jack D and some of these lads who are going on now, and they're absolutely wonderful. I hate them. They're funnier than me.
They make a lot of money today, comedians. I think if you can fill a stadium, you deserve every penny you can get.
They deserve it, of course they deserve it. If people are going to come in to see them, if 10,000 people are going to come in to see them, not one night, not 2 nights, but 10 nights on the run, then, you know, 100,000 people can't be wrong.
People say, did we pave the way? Well, they have to stand on someone's shoulders. I humbly think perhaps they might have stood on ours.
It's not, you don't get as nervous when you're with the governors, you know, Stan and Frank. I mean, it's just like, it's like a night out, really. You know, we all meet up, and you still get the twinge, you know, you still get the nerves, you know, a bit of nerves, which is a good thing, I think, you know. I've gone through the stages where, you know, you used to have to go and have a pee, and then you'd have to go and have a number 2, and yeah, I've gone through that stage now, you know, so you're still, you know, 2 number 3s. Right, I shall go on.
Well, that's the difference between him and I. I have no nerves whatsoever. Do you know where I got it from the parachute regiment? Standing when the door opened and looking down, 12 and 1,500 feet. Lift way up top, right, stroke up, and you were gone. 23 jumps I done. So I was never ever frightened in my life. Frightened of nothing. Even bullets.
Got the caffeine.
Fantastic.
She was in the front row of the chapel and she were balanced and fell.
This is it.
She was hurtling down into the middle of the chapel and the leg of her drawer caught one of her rafters. And she went swinging up and down and the parish priest said, if any man turns round and look at their unfortunate woman, may the Lord strike him blind.
You got away with murder for years.
I think I've risen one eye.
We loved him. We loved him for that one. And the rest.
Magician working the big liners.
Do I still have ambitions? Yes, I do. I don't know why I have ambitions, because I've done most of the things that I wanted to do, but yet, you know, I'm an entertainer, I'm a comedian, you know, I'm working, my phone's ringing, and what have you. Maybe I'd like to get into a sitcom, maybe I'd like to get into a play, maybe I'd like to stretch myself another direction, maybe I'd like to go on the radio. There's so many things yet that I can still do. But if none of that happens, thank you very much. It was lovely.
My legacy. Probably leaving the house to the kids. And not a council house that my dad left me.
I'd love to be young enough to have a go at it again, yeah.
Oh, who wouldn't like to turn the clock back? And it wouldn't be turning the clock back to tell jokes. Be turning the clock back to chase girls like Cheryl Cole. or maybe hysterical.
Well, my legacy, I'd like people to say he was a funny man and he was a nice man and he would help anybody in the business that was coming up.
Loved it, loved every minute of it. It's kept my family in clover for all their lives.
No, I think my legacy would be to hopefully that I've made people laugh. And also is this, that because of modern day technology, we've got DVDs that people can look at and watch long after we've gone, and they can have a laugh in the comfort of their own home, and then decide, was comedy in the 60s any good, or the 70s or the 80s. And in 200 years' time, people can look at that and decide which was the best.
I hope when all the fame is sort of stripped away, people might say, he was okay, guy. He's okay.
And believe it or not, the one great quotation, and it's not a joke, it's a fact. It's the way you tell them.